All right, friends, we're going to jump right in to read our book, The Curious Garden. Remember, we need to try and find the main character, the problem, and the solution to the curious garden. There was once a city without gardens, or trees, or greenery of any kind. Most people spent their time indoors. As you can imagine, it was a very dreary place. However, there was one boy who loved being outside. Even on drizzly days, while everyone else stayed inside, you could always find Liam happily splashing through his neighborhood. It was on one such morning that Liam had made several surprising discoveries. He wandered around the old railway, as he did from time to time, when he stumbled upon a dark stairwell leading up to the tracks. The railway had stopped working ages ago, and since Liam had always wanted to explore the tracks, there was only one thing for this curious boy to do. Liam ran up the stairs, pushed open the door, and stepped out onto the railway. The first thing he saw was a lonely patch of color. Wildflowers and plants were the last thing he had expected to find up there. But when he took a closer look, it became clear that the plants were dying. They needed a gardener. Liam may not have been a gardener, but he knew that he could help. So he returned to the railway the very next day and got to work. The flowers nearly drowned, and he had a few pruning problems, but the plants patiently waited while Liam found better ways of gardening. As the weeks rolled by, Liam began to feel like a real gardener, and the plants began to feel like a real garden. Scholars, I'm starting to think that our main character might be this friend right here. Who can tell me what this friend's name is? Go ahead, tell me. Liam, right. Is Liam our main character? You're right, he sure is. Most gardens stay in one place, but this was no ordinary garden. With miles of open railway ahead of him, the garden was growing restless. It wanted to explore. The tough little weeds and mosses were the first to move. They popped up farther and farther down the tracks and were closely followed by the more delicate plants. Over the next few months, Liam and the Curious Garden explored every corner of the railway. Wow, scholars, look at that beautiful garden. And it's exploring into even more of the city. That is really neat. After spending his spring and summer and autumn with the garden, Liam's time on the railway was finally interrupted by winter. Heavy blankets of snow fell on the city that season, and for the first time since he'd become a gardener, Liam could not visit the plants. I bet Liam missed his garden. I would. Rather than waste his winter worrying about the garden, Liam spent it preparing for spring. After 3 cold months, the snow finally began to melt, and Liam rolled his new gardening gear over to the railway. Winter had taken a toll on the garden. But thanks to Liam's planning, his handy new tools, and a little help from the sun, the plants soon awoke from their winter sleep. The garden had always wanted to explore the rest of the city, and that spring it was finally ready to make its move. Once again, the tough little weeds and mosses set out first. They popped up farther and farther from the railway and were closely followed by the more delicate plants. The garden was especially curious about the old, forgotten things. A few plants popped up where they didn't belong. Others mysteriously popped up all at once. Ooh, Liam's being sneaky over there and delivering plants to everyone. What a sneaky boy. But the most surprising things that popped up were the new gardeners. Wow, look at all those beautiful gardens. And now everyone's outside enjoying the beautiful greenery. Many years later, the entire city had blossomed. But all of the new gardens, Liam's favorite was where it all began. Wow, look at that beautiful city now. Okay, scholars, thank you so much for paying attention. We're going to talk a little bit about what we think the problem in the book, The Curious Garden, was. So, like any good reader, I'm going to go back in our story, and I'm going to start with the first page that we see right here. I see that I remember reading that this city was a very dreary place. It didn't have any gardens or greeneries or trees, and no one went outside to play. I'm starting to think this might be a problem in the story. Now, if this is the problem in the story, then that must mean when Liam started taking care of the garden, he started to find a solution. Liam started learning how the right way to take care of his plants are, and they started growing bigger. Now, we might have found one problem and one solution, but I'm starting to think that there might have been more than one problem, and let me get to it, in the story. Now, I'm not going to tell you what this problem might be and the solution. This is your time to now tell me what you think the problem right here is in the story and the solution that Liam tries to fix with the problem that Liam tries to fix with the solution. Remember, when it's winter outside, he studies up on something. What does he study up on? That's the solution to this big problem right here. All right, scholars, so go ahead and answer those questions, turn them in, and remember, if you need to, it's okay to go back on the video and watch the story.